We went through a NASCAR penalty thing back in 1990, I think it was, and not to drag up old stuff, but actually it wasn't that time. When Greg Biffle was found to be with his truck manifold that they said they hadn't seen all year. So I lined everybody up. We did polygraphs, and we verified that the manifold they had seen, and that we had won races with it, and it wasn't something new. And it passed inspection one or more times during that race for the things they'd looked at. So they'd seen it a dozen times. But the fact that we could prove that we weren't culpable, that we hadn't lied, was of no consequence at that time. But I think really the rubber meets the road here is if NASCAR has decided, and I believe they have, and I'm okay with it, that if your car is out of variance to the inspection after a race, and regardless of whether you're culpable, or regardless of whether you did it with intent, it gave you an advantage that they've recognized. Well, then there's a penalty. We had a situation last year where we had a car that was, God forbid, we'd won a race and it was too low in the front and it was too high in the back. And both those things, it was too low in the front and too high in the back. Both of those things give you an advantage. And what had happened is that broken the left front spring. And that tipped the back end up, which puts the spoiler in the air, and that tipped the front down, which put the air dam down close to the ground. And the fact that it wasn't half cut with a Ziz wheel, didn't have a notch in it, it broke, was no relief for us because they said we had a performance advantage. And I guess the same things happened here. We were not culpable. It was not our intent. We did not have the expectation that thing come off. But apparently there's enough cheaters out there that have been playing in this area that they know absolutely for sure how much it's worth and the fact that there was an advantage. Carl says, and I support the fact that he says that he would have won that race with or without that panel being loose. But if it is the case that the panel being loose gave us an advantage, and if they want to react to that, that's fine. It's okay. It's acceptable. Just do it every time. But do it every time that they have something that comes up that way. And I'm not the one to suggest they haven't done that. There is a question about the 24 car being 2 inches lower, whatever it was at Daytona the year before last, and they decided since they could not see intent that it was okay, and they let it go. Now it was before qualifying, or I think it was before qualifying or at qualifying. They found that it was low and said, well, the team didn't intend for that to happen, so it was all right. But that may be the example of an exception where they've excluded culpability from being the thing that would determine whether or not there was a righteous penalty and whether or not the team had gotten advantage. We will very likely, from where we sit right now, I will very likely corral everybody, including myself and Carl, and Chris Andrews, the engineering manager, and the engineer that was worked for Chris, and the car chief. Very likely that we'll go get wired up and see if we're all telling the truth. But the fact is that we didn't intend for it to happen. It would be the dumbest thing we could possibly do. It says every NASCAR inspector on the racetrack is looking for that panel to be loose based on what the guys did at Daytona. It was not our intent to do that. It was a big surprise it was there. It was unfortunate that it happened. But the only reason that I would consider coming back and making an appeal, and I won't be the only guy that makes that. My vote would be for making it or not making it. If we verify that the crew chief was not and he wasn't culpable, he didn't have intent to have that happen, that's kind of a death sentence for him for six races. We may decide that Chris Andrews or somebody else does a better job. He could lose his job. He won't lose his job. He's a great guy. He's doing a great job. But if he didn't have an intent for that to happen, and they took the 100 points off, they took the 10 points off going into the chase, they fined $100,000. I mean, why don't they suspend me? Why don't they keep me away from the racetrack? I'll go fishing.